Hey, welcome back to the Bronx Giants, hosted by me, So Glow. We're going to get into a couple of topics today. This is my first live post, so let's get into it. We're going to talk about some things today. Dexter Lawrence. We also going to talk about some Kayvon Thibodeau type of discussions. First off, we would love to say, love what's going on with the Giants. I think they have a tremendous ability to make it to the playoffs this year, considering what's going around the NFL. Well, one thing is everybody's talking about the sexy Dexy trade, and for a while, in a couple of years, a lot of people are talking about Kayvon Thibodeau getting traded. Well, here's some pros and cons about that on from both ends. Number one, sexy Dexy. It's really complicated. He's coming off a bad year where he only had a half a sack. He's acquiring more money from the Giants. I am a strange and unusual character when it comes to something like this because if I was the owner, I will address a lot of things different. Well, for number one, I would shop around Sexy Dexy, see what we can get. If we can get something like the Quentin Williams trade, I would love to get a first rounder this year, maybe a second rounder next year, and a player. They got Mozzie Smith, was not a bad player. I thought he did really, really good for the time he was there. And will still continue to do good because I don't see him not making the team this year for Dallas, since they've been so shorthanded at so many positions, even worse than the Giants. Sexy Dexy, what I would probably do with him is handle him in a special way that most organizations probably wouldn't do. But you also want to make sure that even if you sign him back, is he committed? Is he 100? Is he not going to lose and pull the Tiki Barber, like lose heart halfway during the season and not want to play even after the injury, after he was okay to come back? His lackluster performance leaves a lot of things, and he's aging, Well, I would do this if I was John Mara. Number one, I would shop him around, see what he's worth, come to the table and say, well, listen, this is what we would potentially get for you. And if it's this amount of picks, that amount of picks, and say, listen, we wouldn't like to get rid of you. We do need draft capital, and as everybody knows, the Giants don't have many top quality picks for the draft. They don't have any 7th round or 3rd round picks. So this is something also that I'll touch on a little bit towards the end of the chat. But real quick, if you like what you hear, please smash and like. And subscribe, please. Well, first off, I think Sexy Dexy is a way better player than Quentin Williams. With saying that, I would like a bit of reversal. Instead of getting a 2nd round this year, I would actually take almost the same trade, but in reverse. Would get a 1st round this year, a 2nd round, and if they're not willing to part with a player, another, maybe a 3rd rounder or another 2nd rounder. That's based on the negotiation. Now, let me tell you something I love about John Harbaugh. He's a wheeling, dealing coach. This is something I've been yearning, and I thought the Giants has gotten away since Bill Parcells. The wheeling and dealing, we got a commodity. Let's use that to maybe go back a little bit. Just not too much. Just go back a little bit. I'm okay with moving back 5 to 6 picks. Hell, Miami Dolphins have 11 and 30. I'll take 11 and 30 for 5. Even if they wanted a late round draft pick of, I don't know, what do we have here? 186 and 190. I would give those away, which is not a bad idea. Now, not to get off too much of the topic and stick one by one, which what I will handle right now. I would like to have him at the table and say, well, are you fully committed? Look him eye to eye. You got to look these players in the eye and see if whether or not they're committed, their body structure, the way they address themselves. Sexy Dexy has to be also a leader in that locker room. As well as Brian Burns, and also when you think about it, if you let Sexy Dexy do this and you don't trade him off, it's going to be really simple. Are other players going to be doing the same thing? Is he going to be starting a trend that's something that we can't back out of? And about Brian Burns comes up next year, says, I want to get paid again, even though he's got a lot of money being paid. But at this point, the way the market is running, it seemed to be grossly underpaid at this point. And have a number of other positions do the same thing. Some of them, most of them are underneath contract or underneath rookie contracts, which they're not allowed to do. So what I would say by that is, are you willing to trade as a Giants fan? I gave you some of the options. I would say we have 5 trading partners that are willing to go right now and give us this type of deal. I was told, to be honest with you, Green Bay wanted to trade, Chicago, the Pats, the Jags. I heard the Jags were number one. I was going over some transcripts yesterday from the GM, and he kind of did not say, but said that he is willing to give up a boat for Lawrence. As well as the Bengals. These are teams that will definitely use them. Dallas would be another place, as well as the Eagles. Problem is, do we want to trade Sexy Dexy within the NFC East? And I wouldn't do that if I were you, because if I was, he'll pull a Saquon on you and win a chip. So, that's where, excuse me, that's where I'm at with that trade. Let's go as far back as the Kayvon Thibodeau. Let me tell you why I would trade him and would not trade him. I would trade him because he's also been a lackluster. He didn't live up to the hype after the first year, after people figured him out. I think his value and worth is somewhere around, if you get a sucker, a 3rd round pick, and if you get a decent wage, I think he's worth a 4th rounder, maybe a 5th rounder. I would strongly not come off the 4th rounder. But if you get somebody to give you a 3rd, a sucker, I would take it in a 2nd. Especially this year. And this is what I don't understand about Sexy Dexy and K-Ball. I would have balled out last year. I know we weren't doing good, but in hindsight, this is probably one of the worst drafts to pull these type of moves, to have your name. Kayvon, he's been on the chopping block for like 3 years already. But as far as Sexy Dexy, this is a very, very deep and young, talented depth of edges, of DTs that I've seen since last year. And then before that, it was quite a few years before that. I think Kayvon Thibodeau will be a great player coming off the bench. Remember, we're developing him. We kind of scare back his roles according to his injuries, as well as Sexy Dexy. I think we're going to need spot fillers. Even though I think that we have enough to go around, I think we should kind of want to keep him, but for not a premium cost. He's not a premium player. And if he wants top dollar, that's when you let him go, because he's not worth top dollar. He's worth a mere mediocre salary. I would probably go somewhere in and around the 5 to 7 mil area, and sign him for a 1-year deal. You got to show me something. We got a new coach here. Brian Dable's not here, so you're gonna have to show me something as your new coach. And that's kind of where I would go with that, and express how I would like to see things progress with him. Now, again, draft capital. And this is what these two stories lead in. They lead into draft capital. The Giants don't have a really good draft capital, but they have great picks. All right. Well, number one, we have first round at number 5. I'm going to touch upon this real quick. And also, again, I want to hear opinions on whether or not we keeping Kayvon or we dumping him, and do we sign him? And do we sign him to an enriched deal? But let me tell you one quick thing before I move on to these picks. If we do re-sign Sexy Dexter, let me just tell you what a couple of scenarios that do happen for us. We actually get to take his salary and stack it in a different way, which will open up a lot of money, somewhere around 12 to $14 million worth of cap space, which is great for us. If we do re-sign him. And with Kayvon, we'll be dropping his almost $16 million contract and giving him a mediocre contract, a 1-year deal, which opens up, again, more cap space. Because these cap spaces are projected on people getting paid what they need to get paid and what they were supposed to get paid according to whatever salary they're based on this year. And that's where I would go with that. And now let's get back to the picks part. We got 5. I don't mind trading backwards for a small riches. And that's my point. Right now, the way which I actually go on all the time, which is a mock draft simulator powered by PFN, which I think is owned by Mel Kiper, if I'm not. He's like one of the founding fathers over there of that whole industrial league, which is shout out to him because he's been the grandfather of mock drafts. And because a guy like him, I'm get to standing in front of a camera talking to you guys and having a free will. So I would say I would draft back nothing more than 6 spots. Something like Miami has an 11th and 30th pick. I would definitely trade us. And you want to hear something funny? I guarantee you one of the top 10 still lands in our hands. I promise you that. Because according to everybody's needs and what they're supposed to do, I've been pretty spot on. I will have my brother on the live and we'll go through how I predicted everybody on the team last year. Down to the very last person. And that's no BS. I'll let him say that for himself so you don't think I'm carrying on. But then you got the 37th pick. The second round. And in the draft, I feel at that spot, depending on what we do at number 5, which I wouldn't go with somebody like Jared McCoy. I would go with this Dylan Thielen. I would love to have him on the team if we can't get like a Sonny Styles or, hell, even a Jeremiah Love or a Caleb Down, depending on where we fall back. A lot of in my mock simulator, we also draft back to the Saints, who pick up Sonny Styles and then or Jeremiah Love, and then we go back and we wind up getting a pick of the litter, which is Sonny and Caleb, which has been the case most of the time. And I see the way that's trending. And I like their program because their program usually adapts. Also, they give a grading system that was not introduced last year, but it was introduced this year, which they just upgraded and did an upgrade on, which is fabulous. They get to tell you how, in their professional opinions or a simulated, generated opinion of how you did. So, at this point, I'm trying to get this draft capital and the first 100 picks. And by the way, I'll touch on something later that really strikes me. But I'm trying to get in the top 100 picks, and the top, or hell, even the top 50 picks. And I'm trying to get 3 bites at the apple, and also come up with a third round pick, which we're missing anyway in this year's draft, along with a 7, which I don't really care for 7s. I think we got enough 6s bunched up together where we can actually play and get some, some tackles and some guards. I don't think we should be drafting high on guards. The Giants, they don't do very good when they draft offensive linemen in the first round. Flowers was a prime example. Roman Obed, he was a great Giant, in my opinion, for the time, but to me was a slight bust. First round draft picks. So I don't recommend the Giants to do that. I think they stick to their guns and help out that defense where we need it the most. We did sign a couple of 1-year deals. That was great. But now I think we need to put our head coach on task. And what I mean by that is that this is what I love about John Harbaugh. He always wheels, he always deals. I always said this, that we should be willing and dealing. We got the exact players I mentioned last year only because they were still there and people were idiots. And I did predict every round and where we're going to pick people and the player personnel. And I think this year I want to shake it up. This year I get my wish and we wheel and we deal, and that's what we bring it back to the Giants since Bill Parcells. Like, this is what we really need. And again, thank you once again for joining me on the Bronx chat. And my name is Soglo, and thanks for hanging out with me. Leave your opinion. Make sure you like and subscribe.